Welcome to the Mixed Reception Podcast. I'm your host, Barrett Sigmund, and today, huge episode. It's the 30th episode of the pod. Every 10 episodes, I try to do a special movie. I got two guests. We got Alfred Crane of Performance Enhancing Films podcast. What's up, Alfred?
Hey, Barrett. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to have you. And we have Rob Holmes, who does the Horror podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Barrett.
So you're kind of taking a break from your podcast, I hear?
Yeah, we're going to change it over to Holmes Invasion, which is going to cover more, just a broader range of films instead of just focusing on horror.
Awesome. So you guys have both told me, I think that, so we're doing The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. You guys have told me you guys are both fans of this movie. Not to get confused with The Thing from 2011, which I guess is a prequel.
Yeah.
Or The Thing from Another World, this is a remake of that movie. Well, let's get this out of the way. Have you guys seen any of those movies?
Yes.
Yes.
What have you? So both of them? You've seen both movies?
I've seen the 2011 one.
You've seen it, Alfred?
Yeah.
And I hear it's not very good.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Don't they fight he's like a vegetable monster, right?
So that is the original, like the one from the 50s.
Yeah.
And then did you read John Campbell's Who Goes There?
I was going to say, it's also based on a novel. I have not read that. Have you read it?
I've read that. I read that last year, as a matter of fact.
And what'd you think?
It's pretty interesting. They just released an expanded one on Kindle. It's like another 30 pages, so it's like more in detail, but the characters line up more. The story's a bit more similar, but it's like was written like 40 years before the John Carpenter's thing came out.
Does this movie follow that book pretty close, or
a bit more, but not exactly? They don't line up. It's almost like there's about 30% fits.
Okay, yeah.
But it's so they got the characters and the location and stuff. But it was pretty good. It's a good read. I'm looking forward to reading the extended version. And then the 1950s one I watched with my dad when I was a kid. And one time when it snowed in upstate New York, it was just the two of us, but we were trying to make the circle. I found a UFO in my backyard. So the classic scene where they're making the circle around the UFO. So I remember doing that. And then I saw The Thing. My dad was in Korea, and he got a version of it that was kind of got in one of the booths. And so he's cooking spaghetti dinner, and then the dog has its face open in the moment. He goes, "What the hell is this?" Because he thought he had the 50s one.
Oh shit! Oh, I bet he was really surprised.
He was really surprised. He was like, "Oh."
So, yeah. Well, so I mean, this movie is kind of considered like one of the better remakes. I mean, I think the 50s one is. I haven't seen it, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. It's kind of cheesy B movie, kind of like Frankenstein monster kind of horror movie for the most part. I've seen clips.
And one of the things in the John Carpenter's thing, they do have homage to one of the scenes where the thing is on fire and it goes out the door, and like in the thing with this one, it catches on fire and it goes out the door after it has the I'm getting ahead of myself, but the couch scene. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is a good example of a good remake. I mean, they basically took and I would throw this in there with The Fly, The Blob, where you basically have just like a cheesy kind of 50s B movie. I mean, guy in a suit. The Blob was just like jelly, and you kind of just go in a radical, like you really pushed the effects, almost like this movie. I would say, almost body horror.
Very much. This is the epitome of body horror. This was one of those films that wasn't critically not a loved movie, as are a lot of classics like The Blob, or classic remakes like The Blob at the time. But, fan base keeps these films going. But like The Thing, I remember watching that on TV. I was over at I don't know, we had some family reunion or something, and it was on television, and I'm like 5 or 6. And I just remember walking downstairs to the TV, and it's the chess scene.
Oh, so good.
With the defibrillator. And that is what I saw as like a 6-year-old. Just like enthralled. I'm like, everyone's freaking out. I'm like, this is so awesome. And I just sat down there and just watched it for the rest, because it was on repeat. Like, it was one of those, hey, we're going to show this movie on repeat, like a Christmas Story type thing. But they chose The Thing, which was a great idea.
Yeah, I had the similar thing, except my mom and I were watching it because Dad said it was good. So I was 11, and we shipped to watch. My mom's a pretty good trooper. She'll stick with me through a lot of stuff. But it got up to the chest burster, the chest scene, and she said, "That's it." She turned it off, and I went to bed. So I stopped it there, and you picked it up there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So did you ever did you rent it later, Alfred, or just like?
I didn't watch it until much later, but I finally saw the rest of it. And I'm glad I did, because it's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, so I'll tell you my story with this movie. I saw this on the Sci-Fi Channel. And this was like, I specifically remember I was 12. It was like the 20th anniversary of the movie. The movie's almost 40 now. Jeez, we're getting old.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Next year it's going to be the 40th anniversary. But I remember the video game was coming out.
Yep.
And in between, so they would show some of the movie, then we'd get a commercial break, and then they would kind of show, they would show scenes from the game and stuff. And that was my first experience with this movie. I mean, I loved it. And has anyone played the video game?
I have it on PlayStation 2. It is one of the most frustrating things I've ever played. Because when you're going through it the first time, unless you're using a walkthrough, you don't really know what you're doing, because there are very specific things that don't trigger unless you follow. At least when I was playing it at least the first time I played it, it just did not. I couldn't get anywhere. And then I finally get to this place, and you have these creatures that are just killing you every 5 seconds. They're just little face huggers, like from Alien, but they're not. They're things. And then it turns out, I guess there's 10,000 people at this research base, because there's 10,000 of these thin creatures that you're fighting throughout the game. I never finished it, but it's cool. It's it definitely went more into the story of what happens afterwards, because you're a rescue team who has come there to check everything out afterwards.
Yeah, I really want to play it. I wish they would do a remaster. I don't know if there's enough interest in a remaster.
Shout Factory did a 4K.
Do what now?
Shout Factory did a 4K.
Yeah, I have that.
Oh, you talking about the Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Oh, I had the collector's edition Blu-ray. I had the poster. I remember. I think it was 3 years ago. They played this at the Narrow, and I saw it. I mean, I had the damn movie.
Oh, wow.
Blu-ray, but I love this movie so much that I wanted to see it in theaters.
Can we do that? Go to the Narrow and ask them to play it?
I'm sure they'll do it as a midnight showing.
I think they're about to reopen, but I know some people who you could rent out the theater and do birthday parties.
Wow.
Yeah, I know somebody who did that. I should have done that. And now this shit's almost over. That would have been cool, but. Anyway, John Carpenter, we need to talk about him. Yep. I don't know about you guys. He is probably my favorite director. Where do you think this ranks in his filmography? Do you think this is his best movie?
Easily.
Yeah, I agree.
Easily, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it starts the Apocalypse Trilogy, right? So it is iconic for that reason alone. And it's a film that it's not only a great horror film, it's a great science fiction film, it's a great drama. It's a great film that really delves into the psychology of isolation and how people will turn against each other more so than any of his other movies. I know people love Halloween and they think that, they always go to that as being the penultimate. But people, I think, read into Halloween a little more than what was originally put pen to paper.
Oh, definitely. Everybody thinks that he created all these tropes and stuff, and it's not really the case.
It's the old urban legend tropes that were back,
like the smart girl who's a virgin, she's like the final girl, and if you have sex,
Well, the original Black Christmas touched on Halloween before Halloween 4 years. What was it? 4 years earlier? I think it was 1974.
Yeah. People forget. Like everyone's like, "Oh, Halloween is like the first slasher." It's like, well, Black Christmas. And
Peeping Tom.
Peeping Tom. I haven't seen that. I really want to.
That would actually, I think, precede Psycho maybe by a few months or something, because I think it's 1960. Maybe it's before.
Okay.
But yeah, that one
filmed by the same guy who did Christmas Story, right?
Yes, Bob Clark.
Yeah.
And he made Porky's.
Wait, Bob Clark did Peeping Tom or Black Christmas?
Black Christmas.
Okay. Wow. That's very that's kind of wow. Porky's, Black Christmas. Wow, that's crazy.
Christmas Story.
Christmas Story.
That's a heck of a three-movie feature.
He's got some range.
I
always kind of go back and forth. I love this movie, but I really, really love Escape from New York. I don't know. I just like the vibe of that movie.
I've appreciated that more over time, I think.
Yeah, which you said, so you did mention this is the Apocalypse Trilogy. So the first one's The Thing. The second one, correct me if I'm wrong, Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
And then the third one is In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep.
I got it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
John Carpenter had like a really good 80s vibe, or 80s like run. I mean, Fog, Escape from New York, Christine. What else did he do? Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
They Live, Prince of Darkness. I mean, that's an iconic run.
And then I think, it was Starman.
Starman. I've never finished that movie. I liked it. I just couldn't really. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I saw it as a kid on TV and just was never really cared much after that. I will say, when you got to the 90s, other than In the Mouth of Madness, I was not a fan of Body Bags. I didn't like Village of the Damned at all. Escape from LA was rough.
Okay, Escape from LA is
fun, but it's rough.
Movie, but it is kind of a guilty pleasure for me.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone loves vampires for some reason.
Okay, I'm a vampires fan.
For the opening scene, and then the movie's a letdown for the rest of it. It's the epitome of Dimension films in the 90s. It's like, hey, we have this really cool moment. We're going to put it in this movie. In vampires, we put it in the opening. But the rest of the movie just exists.
Ghost of Mars.
Worst.
I've never seen
that's his worst.
It. That was supposed to be an Escape from New York sequel, but that LA bombed and they kind of changed it.
Ghost of
Mars. Escape from Earth or something, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like Escape from Earth, and then
wouldn't it be Escape from Mars?
Yeah,
that would make more sense. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about, Alfred. I did hear something like they were planning on doing something like Escape from Earth or whatever. But it's interesting. Well, it's kind of sad. I'll say this: he doesn't direct movies anymore.
No, dude. He plays video games. And he makes synthwave music. He's pretty much one of the pioneers of synthwave with even the Halloween theme.
I love his music. He actually did not do the music for this movie. It was Ennio. I can't say his name. Ennio Morricone.
Yeah.
Okay. God, I love his music.
Yeah, Ennio Morricone. Yeah.
Yeah.
His music. The Hateful Eight used unused music from this movie.
To jump ahead into trivia, it's interesting because the score of this movie got a Razzie nomination. But
I can't believe that.
But what's funny is Hateful Eight won the Oscar for Best Score, and it uses some of the music from this. I guess
I did not know that.
I guess there was a lot of unused music that Quentin Tarantino kind of used in Hateful Eight, but I know he did The Ward. That was like the last movie he did.
Yeah. I never saw it.
I didn't either. And then nothing since then.
A Masters of Horror episode he directed, but that was it. I think that was what I think. Cigarette Burns was the one he ended up directing, right?
I have no idea. I have never seen that show. What's it called?
Masters of Horror. Yeah, Cigarette Burns and Pro Life. He did 2 episodes. It was on, I think it was on Showtime or Cinemax back in like the mid 2000s.
Okay. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So this movie obviously was a huge flop, and commercially and success, or financially, and critically, I should say. And it's kind of I was like looking into this when I was reading up on this movie. I guess John Carpenter had signed like a 3-picture deal with like Universal. He was tapped to do Firestarter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and because this movie bombed, like I guess they like just ended their deal with him, and they took Firestarter away from him.
I thought they threw something else at him for his like 3rd movie, and were just like cool and just pushed him through it. But then after that, he was like, "Yeah, I'm done with studio films," and that was.
Well, it was interesting because like he was like really, really bummed about like, you know, how this movie was received. And I think he was kind of saying, John Carpenter, what I was reading is he was like, if this movie would have done better, it probably would have changed like my whole career. I think he would have gotten a lot like bigger movies, big, you know, kind of big blockbuster, you know, studio movies. I mean, obviously his career, well, it's interesting. He is the quintessential mixed reception director because most of his movies outside, I mean, all of his movies really outside of like Halloween and Escape from New York were like, didn't do well with the critics or audiences. And like over time, they've, you know, developed this like cult following. I mean, he had a great career, but it's just very interesting. Had this movie done well, like, you know, it would have been an alternate path.
Dude, he is one of the, think of it this way. If his movies don't do well in theaters, but where did they do well? They did well on cable. So essentially, he's one of the best cable directors of all time because all of those films got new life where people were finding them either on cable or on video. You know? Like, and then people are appreciating the films, and all of a sudden there's this second viewing and third viewing. It's on TV, and people are like, ooh, this is really cool. We need to check it out more. And they delve into it further, and all of a sudden those same critics who hated the film now have this second look at it where they're like, oh, this is amazing. And that's where it seemed to really thrive.
You know what I was also thinking too? They don't make movies like this anymore. I mean, everything is like, and I'm not a CGI snob, but you know, I'm one of those people. You should do practical as much as you can. Practical. Mm-hmm. I mean, CGI should be a crutch, and I think people kind of admire this movie looking back now, because now all we get is these crappy, you know, CGI extravaganza movies.
Yeah.
And, oh my God! I mean, we'll get into it, but God, the creature effects in this movie. I was taking notes, and it's like I could not describe like what I was seeing. It's just like this movie just oozes like creativity with like the alien, like the Thing.
Yeah, like Rob Bottin with his effects work of putting this different alien flora and fauna inside of a creature and then putting that inside of another creature. And so like when you're watching the dog scene and it bursts open almost like a flower and this tongue shoots out of it when it tries to, you know, or sprays out and then tries to, like the tentacles are shooting out. You see so much more inside of it. And then when Wilford Brimley's cutting these things open and pulling the stuff apart, you're like, oh man, what was this? What other planets has this been to? Because like this is not of this Earth or anything we know.
I love his reaction when he like cuts open the Thing. He's like, whoa,
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's some Wilford Brimley overacting there too. It's kind of
well, he really did that though. Like I think in the military, right? He was like a I don't know. He did surgery or surgeon or
I
something.
read something that he was like a cowboy. I don't know, maybe like a ranch hand. I think he had a lot of experiences with like cutting open animals and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think it bothered him. I think the rest of the crew.
Here's a question for you. When he's like talking, did that eraser on the pencil or pen hit the thing and then he put
Oh my God, Alfred, I'm glad you brought this up because when I was watching this last night, I thought that too. I'm like, okay, did that eraser on the pencil hit the thing and did he just put that in his mouth? So, I mean, obviously he becomes infected later. So I think that's when it happened.
I mean, that's the most likely point of assimilation. Yeah, because even if that first point of assimilation, you wouldn't even know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would get infected and you would have no idea that this thing is now taking over you.
Right. Yeah.
And,
Well, let's get into reviews at the time. I only have a few. Like I said, this movie, scathing reviews at the time. I mean, this was the summer of '82. Everybody was seeing E.T.
Yep.
You know, I was kind of thinking, like, do you think this would have done better box office wise if they released this in like Halloween time, like October-ish? Because this was a summer movie. This came out the same day as Blade Runner.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, this needed, in June 25th. This definitely needed to be. This needed to be October. This had to have been Halloween because you have to still give more time away from like E.T. and those other films because movies stayed in theaters for 9 months sometimes.
That's true, yeah.
Or even like when Titanic was there, well over a year.
Yeah.
And, we had, 14-month windows, 12 to 14-month windows before you're getting something on VHS. And sometimes it was longer depending on the popularity of the film because they knew they could milk it for longer. I can see that being difficult because E.T. did very well for a long time. And people
correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it the highest grossing movie like at the time, E.T.?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, E.T. is like the polar opposite of this.
Yeah.
E.T. is like a cute little buddy family alien movie. This is just gross and nobody trusts each other. Everybody's fucking paranoid and it's so gory. I don't know. I think people would I don't know. Maybe this movie was just too gross at the time. I don't know.
I think it was just this type of horror was something people really hadn't seen before. This was innovative. This was new. This was disturbing in a lot of ways that people are just seeing the gross out stuff, but they're not seeing like the intricacies or intricate, that word. They're not seeing all that stuff and how much detail and how much time was put into all of the creature effects. And even, John Carpenter said the hardest thing he had to film was these guys, 7 guys or whatever, standing around a table talking.
Oh, there's much more than 7. I honestly,
or 8, 9.
I know. Okay, I know Mcready. I know Blair. I know Childs. Doc. I don't know anybody else's name in this movie.
Fuchs, Windows.
Oh, okay. Windows, yes. How many people can we name? There's like 15 guys in this.
Doc Copper.
I think there's 12. There's Mcready, Blair, Nals, Palmer, Childs, Copper, Norris, Bennings, Clark, Gary, Fuchs, and Windows.
Now, did you know that, or did you look at it?
Obviously, I don't know that from memory because I said 7 guys around a table, and that's 12. So, no, I'm looking this up, man.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think there might be too many characters in this movie. I don't know.
No, I don't think so because they get rid of them in a very creative way for most of them. I think a couple of them kind of get thrown by the wayside a little bit, like Nals. You're like, wait, but I know the novelization puts in stuff.
Well, Knowles is interesting. We're kind of just jumping all around, but that's fine. Knowles, I guess, like they actually filmed the death with him, and it was like really gross. It was like his like tongue was like sticking through his body, and I think they cut it because I think you actually saw more of the monster in that scene, and they used a lot of stop motion, and John Carpenter was just like, cut it. It just doesn't look good. Or no, I think what it was is I think they actually test audiences didn't think it looked very convincing, so they cut it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see there being, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be interesting to see that stuff. I haven't really seen any of the.
I was looking. I had some free time at lunch today, and I was like looking at. There are some deleted scenes. From what I saw, a lot of what was cut. And I did not see that scene that we just talked about. I would love to see that. And I haven't dove into the collector's editions, Blu-rays, special features. Maybe it's on there, but a lot of what I saw in the deleted scenes was just kind of like just extended alternate takes. I was like, yeah, nothing really that substantial. But
oh yeah, I'm looking at the storyboard right now on Nals' death. Okay.
But
oof, man, he just kind of gets eviscerated.
But you are right though. He kind of just he just kind of walks away.
Well, yeah, and then they had another thing in a novelization or something where the way it was written, they didn't have it take place the final fight underground. The final fight was taking place in like the party room or whatever that they had, or the game room. So apparently he gets thrown into the bathrooms or something and then takes a piece of the wood before it can assimilate him and just stabs himself in the neck to kill himself so it won't assimilate him.
While we're on the subject, what best kill in the whole movie? I actually really like, who's the guy that dies before Nals? Or I can't even.
Oh, Gary?
Yeah, he like puts his fingers like through his face. Like,
oh yeah.
That was crazy.
That's a cool one.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite one, Alfred? Favorite kill?
I liked. I thought the one where when the guy is like the hippie guy is that Window? No, what's the hippie guy?
I think Windows. Yeah, he's pretty. Oh no. There is another kind of hippie-ish dude. Yeah.
Oh, it's Palmer.
Palmer, when he goes up and smokes the blood test, he's just sitting there and he's like, you can see it's on his face. You can see kind of like this weird smirk because he knows he's about to get found out. And then the blood jumps and he's like starts convulsing and everyone's like, get me out of here, get me out of here. Then he like puts his feet through the floor and it's just, I liked.
Yeah. I thought
Windows has a crazy death. Like he basically just his jaws like picks up his face and it's a dummy. I mean, it looks kind of shitty, but it's kind of funny. But that's a pretty good one too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I still say the scene between Norris, like basically the Norris monster death.
Oh yeah, where his face turns into a spider.
Yeah. I think like that whole scene in itself where Dr. Copper gets his arms bitten off and he's screaming as he's falling back, that kill, and then just seeing Norris tear apart in this horrific way. That's the thing. Like that moment sticks out so much, I think, for a lot of people. Granted, it was the first thing that I saw for the movie ever.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But just the amount of detail that went into the way this creature was built. And then you realize, it's the thing, and it has this like green goo that's coming out of it, not in the way that you'd expect it to be. And just the way that the teeth open up, and you're like, this just seems like this giant vacuous opening where you're expecting intestines and all this stuff, and it turns into teeth. It's like such a shock moment. That to me is like sums up this movie.
Well, that's a great jump scare. Like, you just think he's just having a heart attack. You just wouldn't think.
It's one of my favorite. That's just such an amazing moment.
There's actually some pretty decent jump scares in this movie, and not in a bad way. Like a jump scare can't be done well.
The best ones
nowadays they suck, but What was that, Alfred?
One of the best ones is when the power goes out and the guy's walking around with his light, and then the shape shambles with this big shape moves by.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Good.
Also, when the dog jumps out, that's scary. I fucking jumped like last night when I was watching this.
Huh.
Yeah, there's some good ones. Okay, so I'm going to read some reviews. I won't dwell on this too long, but we kind of have to paint a picture of like just how scathing this movie was received at the time. Roger Ebert, he was kind of mixed on it. Gave it 2.5 out of 4. He said, quote, "The Thing is basically just a geek show, a gross out movie in which teenagers can dare one another to watch the screen. There's nothing wrong with that. I like being scared, and I was scared by many scenes in The Thing, but it seems clear that Carpenter made his choice early on to concentrate on the special effects and the technology and to allow the story and people to become secondary." I disagree. I think
too.
The best part of this movie is just there's just this distrust and paranoia within the group, and it's so well acted and conveyed, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that I'm reading Carpenter's quote in 2008 right now, and I'm like, oh my, that is just horrifying.
Yeah, well, you know what? Roger Ebert, he was kind of like a notorious like horror movie snob. He like hated slasher movies, so it kind of makes sense that he would hate like something like this. It's like super gory.
Oh yeah. But I mean, 2.5 stars is not.
It's not as bad as I thought he would have given it.
No, but do you have the quote from what Carpenter said in 2008?
No, what was that?
Oh, he said, "I take every failure hard. The one I took hardest was The Thing. My career would have been different if that had been a big hit. The movie was hated, even by science fiction fans. They thought I had betrayed some kind of trust, and the piling on was insane. Even the original movie's director, Christian Nyby, was dissing me."
Damn.
Hey.
Yeah. I remember reading that quote. I didn't like put it in my notes, but yeah, I mean this like really, this really like fucked with John Carpenter. He was really bummed. I mean, I mean, I think he was a big fan of the original movie too, and to have that director like call you out too, that's got to be kind of tough.
We had a clip of it in Halloween.
Yeah, that's right, on the TV. They even used the same like title card. Yeah. It's really cool. I can't describe it, but it's like it's like it burns and then it just slowly reveals the title, like The Thing. I don't know how.
I think it's like a burn paper type thing. There's a way that they showed how you can kind of expose that title by having I don't know if I don't know if it was flash paper or something that they burned it and then they kind of did it in slow-mo to kind of show it sizzling away. But it did have to deal with something of that type of method.
Yeah, I love that title card. I got another review. It's a shorter one. Vincent Canby, New York Times. "The Thing is too phony to be disgusting. It only qualifies as instant junk." Too phony to be disgusting. I mean, that's the highlight of the movie is the creature effects. I was kind of thinking this too. Do you think at a time that like, I don't know, like, do you think they like people took like practical effects for granted? Like they would see like something like The Thing and they would just be like, that doesn't look real. But now we think it looks great because now we live in an age where there's just all this CGI rubbery, it just doesn't, there's that uncanny valley,
Remember how we were as kids and how I'm a proponent of practical effects more than CG, but remember the way I was always was like, if there was something that looked good, I was like, oh, that actually looks really good. But if it looked crappy, I knew very, very well that it did not look right. But The Thing, there's nothing in it except for maybe the windows being flung around by the monster. Other than that, I think everything looks great.
Well, also, we haven't talked about Dean Cundey. He did the cinematography for this. And I think you have these, like, I guess, animatronic puppets, whatever they did. In the wrong lighting, that could look really bad. And I think,
absolutely.
I mean, you really got to give Dean Cundey a lot of credit.
Yeah, that was the thing with this film. Like, they all worked together. Every department was very communicative with each other to make sure that they were getting the shots properly in there to not show the seams of the creature or not show too much of it, to give that mystique still and create that fear, because you show the entire thing right away and it's like, cool, there you go. And it's where that's the issue with, like, the CG horror and what ended up coming out later after films like this, was they just wanted to show the creature in full all the time. And it's like, you have a moment that you can do that, like at the end, but all these other times you're seeing parts of it, but not everything.
Well, also, we kind of like and I haven't seen the movie, but the 2011 The Thing, I've seen clips of it and I've read about it, and I obviously that one, very interesting production, because they were gonna they actually created like practical effects, and I guess the studio was like, no, this just doesn't look modern enough, and they had to replace all the practical effects with CGI, and it looks horrible. So yeah, I mean, we kind of know what could happen with a movie like this. We saw it, yeah, and that movie too. Like, from what the clips I've seen, like they the cool thing about the Thing, the alien, is he kind of wants to remain hidden. You know what I mean? He's not out in the open and stuff. Like, he's trying to like change into, he's trying to blend in. And that movie, from the clips I've seen, there's a part where he's like the monster's really like literally like running after them. Like, I kind of want to see it. I'm kind of curious, but I don't know.
It's worth watching to see how they overlaid CG on practical effects, because the executive, I think, who took over, or the producer who took over the film afterwards, saw it and was like, this looks too 80s. Really, it's a prequel to an 80s film, so yes, it should. And they were like, no, we need all our high gloss stuff, and you need to show it front and center. And it's like, I hate that. I don't know who made that decision, but I hate them.
Me too. The only thing I think you could expand on, I'm totally against the prequel. I mean, obviously it's a thing, it's out there.
If they would have followed what they did, if they would have told the story of the Norwegians in their camp,
that's what they did. But it was
Elizabeth Winstead in, and they totally didn't follow a lot of the stuff from the story, and I saw they didn't speak in Norwegian, and
well, they did briefly, and then all of a sudden it just became English for the rest of the movie.
And like the last 5 minutes were the best part of the movie.
Oh, easily, yeah.
That's one of those movies where it's like, I've been looking for movies, and I'll scroll past it on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and I'm always like tempted, but I never have. And then last night, I actually just watched it, and I was like, it'd be kind of cool to watch this for the pod and to do a little compare and contrast. And then it was not on any streaming service. I had to rent it, and I was like, I'm not going to pay $4.
No.
What I was going to say, I haven't seen this movie. You can tell me if this is in there. The only thing I think you could expand on would be like the alien ship that's frozen in the ice. Do they ever explore that in the movie? Do they actually ever go down into the alien ship?
Yeah, on the little weird Tetris game that she ends up pulling up. It's like maybe dual color Tetris like blocks. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Wait,
she's like,
that's in the ship?
And it all pops up, and yeah, it's really shitty.
Okay, well, maybe it's better to keep some imagination and some mystery then.
And I think they're making it more like a ship that the Thing flew around in. But a friend of mine at the beginning of the first one was the UFO coming down. I think I like his theory. He's like, this is something that just took over that ship. It doesn't have any technology. It just takes over things.
That's interesting.
And then they tumble to Earth.
That makes a lot more sense, because this thing is more of a survival type creature than like it doesn't seem as much of like hey, it did want to fix its ship and get off of the planet, or wanted to make a ship to get off of the planet.
Well, it did make a ship at the end.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, I love this movie. It's perfect. But if I were to nitpick anything, I'm like, what are you making a spaceship out of? Like helicopter parts? Like,
Well, with parts from the ship, because I think it was stuff that they took, or the alien took from their crashed ship. And then, yeah, some of the helicopter stuff to at least I think the idea wasn't to get to space. It was to get out of the Arctic. And it was to get to, because then the idea was they wanted to get where there were people. And when they got to where there were people, then they could, infect everyone and assimilate and take over.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I got one more review. It's the last one. David Anson, Newsweek. There's a big difference between shock effects and suspense. And in sacrificing everything at the altar of gore, Carpenter sabotages the drama. The Thing is so single-mindedly determined to keep you awake that it almost puts you to sleep. I mean, like, this is the kind of shit. This is the kind of stuff they said back then. It's crazy. How could you get a movie so wrong? It's so crazy to me.
Oh yeah, because of another movie that came out.
This whole movie's drama.
Because another movie that came out that year, Poltergeist.
Oh wow,
that's right. Ooh, there's a nice connection between Poltergeist and this. Tobe Hooper was actually the original choice to direct The Thing. I'll go a little bit more into that into the trivia, but yeah. What were you saying about Poltergeist?
Well, Poltergeist released on June 4th, 1982.
Wow.
And that was right before The Thing released on June 25th. So you have an alien, or you have you're not aliens, but you're dealing with horror, and you're dealing with this like creature type stuff, and you have E.T., and you have these films that are like family friendly horror. Like especially Poltergeist was considered family friendly horror, even though it is pushing the limits of what a PG film should do.
Every PG movie back then, before Temple of Doom. Well, Temple of Doom was kind of the end of the PG. That was the birth of the PG-13. But
well, I mean, that was still Well, that's still PG for Temple of Doom, like.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because Red Dawn is the first PG-13 film as far as the actual released one, which even for PG-13, that is not a happy movie. That is not a happy movie at all.
I've never seen Red Dawn.
Oh, dude, it is messed up. Like, I saw it thinking it was going to be this The Mission or whatever, or The Rescue. The Rescue, that's what it was, from like the 80s, where the kids were like going to rescue their parents from like this POW camp or something. This is not that. It was not that.
Shoot, I kind of want to see it. I like Patrick Swayze.
Oh, it's good, man, but don't expect a happy movie.
Okay.
Yeah, excellent cast. John Milius wrote it.
Yeah.
I think he directed it too, didn't he?
Possibly, I'm not sure.
But yeah, I don't know. That review's fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, but it doesn't surprise me at the time, because these films are. It doesn't seem like this would be a film that The Thing doesn't seem like something that would be critically praised at the time, especially with the competition that's in there. They want family friendly stuff, like hard R, super violent content. Like even Alien had its moment, but Alien was not something that was pushing the boundaries of what you could get away with gore-wise in 1982.
This brings up an interesting point. I gave you a blurb of Ebert's review, but he actually, so I read the whole review, and he was basically saying like it's basically an imitation of Alien, but Alien's better. So let me ask you this, guys: like, which movie do you guys prefer, Alien or The Thing?
I guess which parent I like better.
What's that?
I guess you like better. It's like you parent or.
Which parent you like better? Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I think The Thing. I'm a Thing guy.
Yeah. I would say The Thing, just because if you want to go for pure horror, this is something that could happen in our lifetime. Alien is something that I don't think we're gonna be on a ship or the Nostromo or something anytime soon. So
they are kind of similar movies. I guess Alien is a little bit more. I mean, The Thing is obviously, it's not all about the effects. I mean, there is a lot of like drama within the group, but
the thing about John Carpenter during he's talking about the making of it, and one thing I didn't know, I noticed it, but they didn't have like a Rob Schneider cutting up every few minutes to break the tension. It just kept escalating, and the hippie guy would throw out some lines, but it was just like something anybody would say, but he didn't have like a, hey, wow, I stepped in the blood, hey. You know, it's like
TK Carter was like, no, I mean, he did a lot of comedy stuff, but TK Carter as Nals is like, they're all just these guys who are doing their jobs. Like, even the people who have comedy backgrounds are more like just, it all just felt real. So those moments where it is funny, it's funny because they're in isolation for so long, and those moments would definitely like grate on each other's nerves, and you could totally understand that and why they would laugh at just some weird dumb stuff. But it feels human, and I think that's why this works, is like you're seeing something that is written in a way on how people would actually talk and interact with each other.
Yes, and you know what I like about this movie too is, because a lot of these reviews are kind of singling out like the characters aren't interesting or don't have any depth, and but I think that's a little refreshing to me, because how many of these fucking movies, and I watched an example. I watched the new Zack Snyder movie the other night, Army of the Dead, and it's like, okay, Dave Bautista, he's an estranged daughter, and he had to kill their mother, and it's just like I sometimes it's refreshing to just not have any of that crap, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
We don't really know a whole lot about these characters, but you actually kind of do get to know them and the way that they react to a certain situation, and I think that's a good way to do character development. It doesn't necessarily have to be this cliche, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's subtext and subtlety.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like the I keep forgetting his name, Palmer. When he's like, he offered to take up the helicopter, but you looked on my friend pointed out, he put on Jay, he's got like Army name tags and got like a helicopter pass, like he was a Vietnam pilot. He kind of got fried in Vietnam, and then he's over there flying helicopters in the Antarctic.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, Alfred, because in trivia, I have that. I guess originally they were going to go more into Mcready's backstory. He was like a Vietnam vet, and he has PTSD and all this stuff. But like to your point, Rob, like I kind of like the more subtle stuff. Like you said it. Like you pick up the little details and stuff. It's not like spoon fed to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
I like stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I've noticed in a lot of these movies. It's every movie has to just have this like cliche thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that these guys are just normal guys. Most people don't have like, bunch of, crap going on. They're just normal people. And that's why I like about this movie and Alien also. It's just like, these are just a bunch of like blue collar guys, like, I don't know. I think it works really well. And I think the performances are all really great too.
Mm-hmm. Well, they all built their own backgrounds. Like they all had very intricate backgrounds. And I think in one of the behind the scenes, they kind of talked a little bit about some of their motivations for character stuff. And when you hear some of them, it's like, oh, okay, that's weird. But to not hear what would be said, but just to see how they act as characters and how some wanted to just get out of there and some were doing this as an escape, like working at this facility. And there was that whole thing of like the Vietnam vets and coming back from that and just wanting to be away from people and be in isolation. It's super interesting. I think it's fascinating, but yeah, I don't need to hear those stories that they always do in films where it's like, here's my dramatic moment where we take a little picture. Oh, who's that? Well, that's my wife back home.
Yeah.
Oh, can't wait to go back to her. Well, I can't because she's dead.
Yes. I just like, I mean, it works for some movies, but it doesn't have to be. Now now it's just to the point where it's just like in every big movie, like that Godzilla movie that came out a couple years ago. It's just like, I don't give a shit about like these people. I just don't. I mean, it's just.
You have the 5 minutes or something. Oh, I'm dumb. Can you explain to me what's going on? And then the hero, let's come out of the scene and I'll explain to you for our dumb audience.
Well, Godzilla King of the Monsters was pretty much exposition the movie.
Yeah. But then it's like, oh, well, my mom joined a cult and she's with the monster bad guys and we're estranged and I don't get along with my dad. It's just like, I don't need it. I don't want it.
Yeah, it's just too that stuff's like you're grasping at straws on any sort of realism, even with that family dynamic for something like that. It doesn't work. And that's why something like The Thing does work. But I think that's what frustrates the shit out of an audience, especially going in expecting something to be kind of spoon-fed to them or have the Spielbergian touch, which this does not.
Yeah, Spielberg does that like in all of his movies, but I don't know. Somehow he can pull it off better, I guess.
No. I think the Spielbergian touch is like the good thing, though. It's not even the spoon-fed stuff because you can either do spoon-fed or be like Spielberg more. Because with the influence that he had on Poltergeist, obviously it's a Tobe Hooper film.
Well, we think it is. There's
there's rumors, but at the end of the day, and even coming from people who worked on the set, they're like, it was Toby's film, no matter what anyone else says. But definitely Spielberg was there as an executive producer, but he's hands-on. And I think it was his first film that he came in as like executive producer on. And then after that, it was like Gremlins and other stuff like that. But if this was the first one, why wouldn't he be so hands-on with it? You know. But there's that approach to the film where you get this family-like dialogue that's just very like, oh, I can understand that, and this is normal. In The Thing, you're dealing with something where it's like, hi, we're a bunch of guys who are in isolation at this Arctic, research facility. People aren't going to relate to that as much. Like, there's a relatability in Spielberg films because it's kind of like happening to the everyman or the every person.
I think this was a little bit relatable, though, these characters. Like, I like how Mcready, like, hey, like, we need to take the chopper up and go check out the camp. He's like, I just want to get fucking drunk in my cabin.
But not to a family dynamic, though.
Right,
and they're the ones who have the money, like, going to the theater to take their kids, right? So that's the difference. Like, you can have adult themes and all that, but I guarantee if Spielberg had put together the trailer for this or whatever, or had been on it, people would have been like, oh, this is amazing. This is so avant-garde that he would just do something that's extreme like this and push the boundaries. Wow.
Oh, my God. I would love if Spielberg cut a trailer for this and then parents took their kids and they were just fucking dramatized. But
if
you know what?
You loved E.T.
You saw this on TV and saw the grossest part and you fucking loved it. Kids love violence.
Yeah, but how do you can't market this in the 1980s because of like, I mean, that's the whole reason the MPAA created, PG-13 a couple years later was because of films that started to push the limits. And like, this was R, easily could be NC-17. And I'm sure I think was before X at the time and had to get multiple cuts. So
Mcready, I got to say, Kurt Russell is a badass. He is a very underappreciated actor, I think. But I like his character because I feel like he's just like the helicopter pilot. There's that other guy that's like kind of in charge of everything. I forget his name.
Gary.
Yeah, I think it's Gary.
Do you think he was a military guy? Because he had like khakis and a military.
I was kind of reading that, and like trivia that like the way he dressed, it was like, oh, well, maybe he's in the Navy. Which kind of goes back to what we were saying. Like all these actors probably came up with their own backstory, probably put their own little personal touch, to the character. But yeah, he's kind of the
sombrero.
Duke
Mcready
failure?
Sombrero was great.
What's that?
Mcready Sombrero.
Oh yeah, he looks fucking
Yeah.
cool too. Like he's got the beard.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you got that main guy who's kind of in charge, and I like how Mcready is just he's not in charge, but he kind of takes control.
Yeah.
That guy kind of starts to fall apart and panic, and and I kind of like how Mcready just kind of steps up and just kind of he kind of just takes control of the
One of my favorite Mcready scenes is when he comes in out of the cold and he's like, back off, way off, and he's got the dynamite in his hand.
Yeah.
And he's freezing, and he's like, back the fuck off.
I mean, they straight up tried to kill him. Yeah, they were going to leave him out there to die, and like,
when the friggin' door handle starts going, I'm like, oh fuck. That's one of the creepiest parts of the movie for me when the door handle starts going. Oh my god.
No, he's a fucking badass. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's kind of Kurt Russell's kind of like Carpenter's Bobby De Niro, because I think he did like 5 movies with him.
Yeah, he wanted him in They Live, but I think he was on something else at the time, so that's why I went to Roddy Piper.
I think that was for the best. Roddy Piper is awesome in that movie.
Okay, yeah, but I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum. The way he delivers it is never as good as anybody else's delivery. Anytime it's like parodied in something, it's amazing. The way he delivers it, watch the line. It's, I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the movie. I think the movie's great. Like, look, dude, I'm wearing a They Live shirt. Like, obviously,
that's awesome. We should have you back on for They Live. That's that's a mixed reception movie.
Easily. But actually, most of his movies touch on like same issues we're dealing with today, the pandemic and The Thing. It's like trust. People don't know who to trust. People don't know who's infected and all that type of stuff. So it's people turning on each other.
We were kind of talking about this in the Mist review. Like, you have a situation of crisis like the pandemic, and you just see how, or like an alien's taking over people's bodies. You just see how ugly and mean people can be.
Yeah.
And I mean, this movie definitely touches on those themes as well. Just everybody's paranoid. Nobody trusts each other.
Right.
I love how this movie just constantly kept me guessing. Like, I mean, at one point you think it's Mcready. They find his bag, or I guess his shirt. What is it? Something that says Mcready on it, and they find it.
His drawers. Somebody threw out the nasty drawers in mine. No, Mcready did have one on the ground. The drawers didn't have a name on.
Yeah. It's which they're like dirty drawers, and like Kurt Russell just is constantly throughout the movie like picking them up and holding them, and like I'm like, those are nasty drawers,
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in like, I guess we've kind of been in the review section of the pod, like kind of off and on throughout. Any other things to touch on? Did we talk about the wire scene, the blood test? I mean, that's incredible.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
we
one
touched
of the.
on. That is just like.
I think that's in the book, if I'm not mistaken, right, Alfred? Don't they do the blood test in the book?
The novelization of the movie or the original?
The original.
I think so. It's been like a while since I read it, but I'm going to read it this week.
Yeah, no, that's an intense scene. I mean, that is South Park. I think parodied it.
A lot of things have now because it's just so. It's perfect, and they throw you on that, and that's one of the best jump scares.
When the thing pops up from the Petri. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, because it's just like, and then we're going to test you next. And he's just been doing this all this time, and it's just been fine, and there hasn't been the issue. And then all of a sudden, boom, after he tells Gary he's going to test his blood next, he puts Palmer's in and just right out of the Petri dish.
Well, yeah, you think it's Clark. That's another name I remember, Clark.
Oh yeah.
Blair told him it was, but I think that was really just Blair like fucking with him.
Yeah, but Clark was going to kill him anyway because Clark had the scalpel on him because of the whole. He killed his. Remember they killed his dogs because the dogs were infected, so he wanted revenge anyway. Clark was going to kill someone no matter what.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: do you think once they become the Thing, they don't know that they're the Thing? Do they?
That's always been a question, but that's kind of where they're like, we don't know if they are until it takes over. So I think it takes over enough of their body, but then at the same time, it almost seems like it makes a replicant of it. Could make a replicant of them if it wanted to, because it was in the middle of turning into one of the characters. Who was it, like Fuchs or something?
Yeah.
It was in the middle of turning into one of the and like. They ended up killing him then. So I'm not quite sure.
That was creepy as shit when he like, oh, he looks at.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that was great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Anything else we can touch upon?
One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie is like, we're gonna spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch.
Yeah.
That's where those are some great lines because it does cut the tension. And it cuts it so briefly, too, because it's like, it's that moment right before the jump scare where you're like, and then boom, right out of the, or no, that was afterwards, was out of there. Yeah. That cut the scene at the end because they had just had all that stuff go on.
And there's some great dolly shots.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
It's where it was going down. The one they're doing where Kurt Russell's running is one of the best ones when there's, you're not seeing anybody, but it's going through the whole camp as they're getting ready to blow it up.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
I didn't. It's to go back to Army of the Dead, CGI explosions. The explosions in this movie are fantastic because they're actually like really real explosions.
They blew up the whole set, didn't they?
I think at the end, yeah.
The end, to me, I could be wrong. It seemed like a miniature. Am I like that shot of the whole like complex blowing up? That seemed like it could be a miniature, but I could be wrong.
I think some of it, I don't know if that in particular, but I know some of the stuff, at least when they were walking like to the spaceship and everything, was like shot on a back lot, and then they just ended up using mats in there to kind of like matte paintings to put in the background. So that could have been something that they did where it was filmed on, like they blew it up wherever, but then just kind of put in that background. That might be why it looked weird, or it could be miniatures. I'm not quite sure.
I thought it looked awesome regardless.
Either way, it's great. Yeah.
Oh, we have not mentioned probably one of the all-time great movie freakouts was when Blair just fucking loses it.
Oh
yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna kill you.
Oh yeah. It's and he's taking the axe around and just like going crazy with that and like swinging that into because he destroyed like everything.
Well, he had just found out. So we got to talk about the computer too. Like, what's up with that computer? I mean, I get it. It's like kind of really for the audience, so they can kind of see like what's at stake here, what could happen if this thing's not contained or destroyed. But it's just kind of like the magical, MacGuffin computer.
Yeah.
Deus Machina.
They are in an Arctic research lab. Okay. That actually should answer that question. Actually, because I just thought about it, like right in that moment. I'm like, but they're a research facility.
Okay, I guess.
And they have computers. So, and the fact that he poured his drink into the computer and was like, said it was cheating or whatever. And then it started fizzling out. He wouldn't just do that unless they had the ability to fix it later, because he'd probably be like, fuck, I got to fix that thing now. So that's where I think that they understand the idea of being able to maybe create some scientific stuff. But yeah, it's the same bullshit computer stuff sometimes where it's like watching hackers and being like, that is not how computers work.
Also, there's a magical computer in Alien as well, right?
Yeah.
What's the name of the ship? Mother, right?
Yeah.
Mother.
But yeah, I was actually do they do at this? I mean, you said it's a research station. I don't like. What are they researching? It doesn't matter. But that's just like one of my questions. Like, it just seems like they just kind of standard, like just chill and play pool and watch TV and smoke.
It's like long-term experiments.
Yeah, it's usually a bunch of data findings and stuff out there, and then there's always some sort of research that they're doing that's being done in those environments. I'm not exactly sure of the specifics, but these outposts really do exist out there, and this is like, these are jobs that people really have. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll tell you when Blair's going nuts and they got the table, and then Kurt Russell wallops him twice of those distinctly sound punches. It goes pa-pow, pa-pow. They put getting down the table. It's like Kurt Russell lays it on.
Anything else? I got some trivia. Anything else before trivia?
Favorite quote of the movie? What are y'all's favorite quote of the movie?
Oh, easy. It's oh yeah, yeah. Well, fuck you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. I mean, I don't really know. This isn't a movie that I quote all the time.
Not very quotable.
Oh, you know what? Actually, the you gotta be fucking kidding.
That's great. It's just like, oh God, now what? Now there's a fucking little spider running around.
Yeah.
Oh, Clark's one. I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Yeah. I did. I wrote that line down. I really did like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too.
Sweden.
We can. Oh yeah, that was good too. We can jump into to categories. What is so best scene? I mean, for me, it's kind of tough. Where do you guys stand on best scene? I think for me, I'm going to go with the blood test, but a close second would be the heart attack guy dying and then burning it. You know, the stomach opening up, biting the guy's arm off.
Suspense-wise, I really like the part where they're going into the sub-basement. It's like, the generator's gone, Mcready. And he's like, well, can we fix it? It's gone.
Oh, that's good.
It's like creepy as fuck when they're down there. But for like one of my favorite scenes is when he comes in from the cold and he's like trying to, he's telling everybody to back off. He's trying to make sense of what's going on.
He looks crazy in that scene. Like he's so pale and he's just got snow on his beard. He looks like a zombie. He just looks crazy. I love it. What about you, Rob?
Probably right after the Norris death, when the head comes off and it turns into the spider creature and crawls away, and then that's the you got to be fucking kidding moment. And they just hit it with the flamethrower, and I thought it was great because I'm expecting this thing to get away and then like keep causing chaos how it would do in most movies, but they end up getting it before it can do that, which is a good thing. That was cool.
All right, this might be a tough question. What is the worst scene of the movie? Is there a bad scene in this movie? I don't think there is. I will say this, and I love this movie. I think it's perfect. Perfect in its imperfections. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The ending, I like it. It's a little rushed. I don't know. Like he just he's underground. He pops up and he's like, well, fuck you too. It throws the dynamite and then he's dead.
Yeah. Final battle is lackluster. If we want to go off of what we were kind of building towards and what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a bad scene in the movie, but I'm like, if you have to pick the worst scene,
yeah, I would say that.
I hate saying that, but maybe that might be the worst scene.
It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad. I mean, it's just like an overabundance of goodies. I mean, everything's so good in this movie.
We expect once we get the Blair monster reveal, we see it as this iconic moment, but it's only on there for a matter of seconds, and it's not like they have a battle. He just appears. It roars and he throws the dynamite at it, and that's your movie. Or he throws this whatever he throws at him, and that's the movie.
Dynamite.
Is it the dynamite or is it like a Molotov?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Anyway, he throws the explosive stuff. Oh, I think it is a a stick of dynamite or whatever that he throws at him, and that's when it all blows up. But it's like you want something more as far of maybe him trying to escape and this thing coming at him and him blowing off parts of this thing, but it's still coming after him. How are you going to do that in 1982, given the budget that's already been, like, Rob Bottin was already overly exhausted at that point, and then you had Stan Winston coming in.
Had to come in and like, I think, I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think, because, that guy was, like, exhausted. Also, only 22 years old. What have I accomplished? I'm 31. I haven't accomplished anything.
Yeah. That's crazy. No, it was, he came in for the dog scene. That was the Stan Winston, because you can see one of the dogs. It's like, that's a Stan Winston effect. It just has this look like the dog creature. But
Alfred, is there like a kind of weak scene for you?
I agree with that. The ending was just kind of like, it went too quick, and just with everything else, it's just so. It's one of those movies where as soon as it comes on, I'm hooked.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it goes by so quickly.
It's so well paced too.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't overstay its welcome. I mean, I had a blast watching this. It just flew by last night.
To be honest with you, I can't handle a lot of violence with the whole dog scene. I can't watch this. So it's like that's so much for me.
Yeah, that is very disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything else is good, but I'd say for me this is for me personally. I know it's a well done scene, but it just like that's probably my least favorite scene.
Yeah. I have a category: best unintentional comedic moment. Well, I think we do have this answer for this. When Windows is getting thrown around.
Yeah.
That looks so bad, but I love it though.
Well, that's like the worst looking scene, I think, in the film.
Yeah. I do miniature figures, and I had to make these mutants for one of my chaos armies, and I made one with. I'll see if I can dig it out and take a picture of it. But I made one with that guy with windows being flown around with his feet in the air. So I'll send you a picture of it.
Ooh, nice. That's cool.
Is there best performance? I mean, I'm gonna say Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're all in agreement with Kurt Russell. Who is the best performer besides Kurt Russell? It's got to be Blair. Although Keith David, is his name Keith David?
Yeah, Keith David.
He's really good too. He stands out. I mean, they're all kind of like, there's like there's like a sameness to like all these characters, right?
I got to say Wilford Brimley, man. Honestly, when it comes to the best performance in the film, I think Wilford Brimley beats Kurt Russell.
Really?
Yeah, because there's this, the way he does stuff and the way he is like, doing the autopsy on the thing. He has that real world experience. It's just, there's so much authenticity to that role and physicality and everything he's doing. And he's commanding that moment of when they're going through the entire autopsy scene. You're glued to what he's saying. Every time he is talking about something, anytime you see Blair discussing something, you listen because you're getting vital information, but it's being told by the Quaker Oats guy.
Diabetes.
I know he was in this movie in Cocoon. I don't know anything. I just know him as the diabetes guy.
Remo Williams. You see Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins?
Oof.
No, I haven't. What was it called?
Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. He's in that one.
I have not heard of this. Is this like a Western? What is this?
Stars Fred Ward.
Fred Ward and Captain Janeway from Voyager.
Oh, it's like a science fiction thing?
No, it's like an 80s kind of like spy kind of good guys versus the bad guys movie.
It's a weird movie. It's like it's a weird movie.
Yeah. I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I agree. Wilford Brimley is fantastic in this movie. Now, I just think I don't know, Kurt Russell just commands this screen, and he's got the cool factor. I don't know. I think that's why I just love Kurt Russell in this movie. But yeah, I'm with you though. Wilford Brimley is just like incredible, and Keith David's pretty good too.
Because I think Kurt Russell's like this safe bet, because Kurt Russell, yeah, he's awesome, he's fantastic, but like when we go down to nuanced performance, like that's where, actually, quite frankly, like I don't really think there's a bad actor in this. I think they're all really, really good. And
that was my next category. What's the worst performance? I don't really think there is one.
I believe every one of them. Their acting, I didn't see any flaws in it.
For like a science fiction horror, I mean, there is like, I don't know, everything. There is an element. Does feel kind of grounded, as far as like the characters are concerned. Like
it wasn't like a whole bunch of good-looking svelte dudes, And
I'm glad you brought that up, because these guys, they don't look like movie stars. I mean, you got fucking Wilford Brimley as second build. I mean, they do have like a real world look to them, and Alien kind of. The more we're talking about this Alien, so many similarities between this and Alien, but like even Alien, like they all like they weren't traditionally. I mean, Sigourney Weaver's smoking hot, but like they look like normal people. They didn't look like movie stars.
Yeah,
Tom Skerritt didn't look like a movie star to you.
Okay, well, and Tom Skerritt.
Yeah,
and Yaphet Kotto. Okay, so
Yaphet Kotto. Yeah, I mean,
Alien is okay. I think we can agree. Alien better looking cast.
Yeah, because look, Sigourney Weaver was the one that everybody thought would kind of get killed off as a side character. No one saw her as Ellen Ripley being the survivor. That wasn't how this movie was meant to be. It was meant to originally be Tom Skerritt as like the lead, and they were, that's when Ridley Scott was like, "Haha, gotcha," and then gave us Ellen Ripley.
What we haven't talked about? The very ending where the whole station's blown up and it's just Childs and Mcready. And I love that kind of open-endedness to it, where it's like, did they destroy it?
Well, there's still talk that the alien was there at the end, and remember, at some point, like he filled all those bottles with gasoline. So he hands the bottle, I think, of J&B over to Childs, and Childs drinks it. And he just sits back with him. And also, if you look closely, this is something I noticed, which is really weird. And it might just be how it was filmed. Only one of them has breath.
I'm glad you brought that up, because John Carpenter pointed that out. So I think Childs is the alien, or is the thing, because... there's a big chunk at the end where he's gone and he just shows up at the end.
And he said he got lost and everything like that. I think he ended up getting assimilated. I think he may have been the thing actually earlier on, and maybe took care of Nals or really helped Blair with what he was doing. And I think at the end it was him sitting with the thing, knowing that it's the thing, and knowing that like this thing's drinking gas and he's going to burn it and stay warm on its corpse before he ends up dying himself.
That's why he's smiling at the end.
Yeah.
Now, you know what throws a wrench in this whole theory? Now, granted, I haven't seen the movie, but supposedly, I guess the prequel, they established that the thing can't recreate metal.
Yeah.
And I think Childs has like an earring.
Yeah, if it realized it couldn't recreate metal because of the issue that happened at the end of that, then couldn't it just take the thing out of Child's ear, the earring, and pop it into its own to be Child's?
Well, maybe. I don't know if he's all... Well, they kind of established when you turn into these things, like, I guess, like...
It wouldn't recreate it in its assimilation form, but then it could take whatever it is off the person that would be jewelry-wise and put it on, like a ring or something like that.
I guess so, yeah.
So why wouldn't it, after learning that from the prequel film, which ended up being the downfall of it anyway, spoiler alert, it's like... where's your earring type thing? And then Mary Elizabeth Winstead's like, hey, Joel Edgerton, or you're torched. Haha, now how am I going to get home? And yeah, that's kind of like the same situation with like this, except I think now you can just say, okay, it just took the earring because it learned from previous stuff, if it's all hive mind type stuff, and pop that in.
I don't know if I mentioned this, but another thing I like about the movie is I can't remember if I said this already or not, but I just love the snow. There's just like but also like a harshness to it. I'm a sucker for like a snowy environment in any movie, especially a horror movie. I mean, even The Shining, it's like so beautiful outside, and they're in the Colorado mountains, but it's like but they're trapped, and it's like 40 below, and I don't know. I love the snow. That's why I like Empire Strikes Back at the beginning. It's like I don't know. I love the snow. Such a good setting. I just love the location of this movie.
Yeah, it has a uniqueness, I think, to it that a lot of other films don't do, or maybe don't do as well. Like 30 Days of Night, sure, you're in Alaska or whatever, but it's just not as good of a film dealing with the whole.
Into it. I couldn't get into it. I got like halfway through. I'm like, this just like isn't working for me.
It was too much CGI vampire stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it's a particularly well-made movie either.
No, I don't like the stretchy mouths, and I don't like the quick cuts because I'm like,
so quick cutty.
It's problematic, man. That's actually what takes a movie from being good to terrible, is when, like, someone even said, like, a movie like Taken, if you watch how long it takes for Liam Neeson to jump over a fence, it's like 21 cuts for him to jump over a fence. That's like a 5-second scene. It's horrifying, and people love Taken, and I was like, this is what everyone loved. This movie is atrocious. Like, how is this liked? It's an hour and 21 minutes of quick cuts.
Specifically, I think you're talking about the third movie. I think the first movie is fine.
I didn't like any of them, man.
I kind of agree with you. I never got the whole Taken phenomenon. I mean, we've seen that kind of movie a million times before.
Yeah.
I do have some interesting casting what ifs. Mm-hmm. Nick Nolte turned down the role of Mcready, as did Jeff Bridges. The writer, Bill Lancaster, wrote it in mind with Harrison Ford and Clint Eastwood in the role. Also, Fred Ward campaigned for the role. That to be fair, that's the guy from Tremors, right? Fred Ward.
Yeah,
Remo Williams
and Remo. Yeah.
What do we think? Nick Nolte, Jeff Bridges as Mcready?
Nope.
I could see Jeff Bridges.
He kind of played that similar kind of character in the King Kong remake. I think, sort of. Maybe I'm just saying that because they both have beards.
I think Bridges, to me, like with Jeff Bridges, it's more when you think of movies like Lebowski.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, if just imagine him with that beard, back then. Out there, it's kind of like, okay, I could see the long hair and the beard, like that look as him as like Mcready. But when it comes down to performance, you're not going to get anybody better than Kurt Russell.
Yeah. You know what? I was kind of thinking this. Jeff Bridges, a lot of times, kind of plays laid-back people. And I don't know. Jeff Bridges is an incredible actor. I mean, he's won multiple Academy Award winner. But, like, I kind of feel like Kurt Russell kind of has a little bit more range. Because, like, let me think about this movie. He's kind of a badass. Escape from New York, different kind of badass, right? Mm-hmm. But then he's a total doofus in big
trouble in China.
China, just a total like just dumbass. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he has a little bit more range. I'm not necessarily saying he's a better actor, but
no, I think he definitely. There's more variety, I think, with the roles that you're going to get with Kurt Russell than you're going to get, with Jeff Bridges. Because you can kind of see where Jeff Bridges' career has gone, and the trajectory makes sense. Kurt Russell's has been all over the place. I mean, dude, wasn't he in Sky High, and he was like the parent, one of the superhero parents or something?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Now he's played a superhero. He's done all this other crazy stuff. Like, he has such a variety and range. But then you're like, Jeff Bridges did R.I.P.D., which was like, hey, I'm a supernatural, like Western sheriff version of Lebowski.
I've never seen that movie. My dad oddly loves that movie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My dad's a big Ryan Reynolds fan.
Oh, well, I mean, if you don't care about like good effects or plot or anything of quality other than having Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges on screen, sure, yeah. Okay.
I think that's why my dad likes the movie.
Yeah, it's fine. That's fine.
Also, Kevin Kline was suggested by Universal for Mcready. No, absolutely not.
No. I love Kevin Kline, but that's not Mcready. That's just not. That's a different movie altogether. Then no.
Kevin Kline's more like bumbling. I don't know. No.
He'd be in The Bling.
He would do what?
Instead of the Thing, he'd be fit in The Bling.
The Blaine?
Bling. Like bling?
He'd be the bling. I'm not sure I understand.
It's the jewelry.
Oh, he'd be the jewelry? Okay. He'll be the jewelry on Childs' ear. Okay.
He'd be more over the top. Yeah, it'd be a little more.
I could see him being like one of the people at the camp or whatever, but no, not.
I could see every single one of these people being in the cast. I just don't see anybody except for Russell as Mcready.
It's like William Catt auditioning for Luke Skywalker.
Ooh.
Like who auditioned for Luke Skywalker?
The greatest American hero.
Oh. We ain't got time for that, Rob. We got that right up, synced up.
Oh man. What is it? What is the song? It's like,
believe it or not, I'm walking on air.
Yeah, that's the one. It was a really weird superhero show that was on TV in the, I think, early 80s, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the best. It's such a terrible song, but it's so catchy.
There's it for Molly tonight.
Oh yeah, and then it ends. It's like, it's just me.
What's this called? I will play this when we're done.
The Greatest American Hero.
Okay, I'm checking it out. I got another couple casting what ifs. Basically, I think at one point John Carpenter wanted this to be an Escape from New York reunion. Lee Van Cleef was considered for Gary.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
Donald Pleasance as Blair. Okay, I would have loved it. I love William Brimley in this movie, but I mean,
I could totally see Donald Pleasance doing this.
He plays a loon all the time. He'd be great.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. It'd be like the dream team.
It would. It really would. I would love it. Anything else before we go into final thoughts and give our rankings or ratings rather? Anything else?
Yeah, Dark Horse Comics made a follow-on series from the movie. So if you want to check those out, you can.
Ooh, I do know at one point the Sci-Fi Channel was thinking about doing a miniseries, and I think it.
What happened to that?
I think it ended up being the movie, the prequel.
Blumhouse apparently and Universal are doing a remake. At least in 2020, that was part of the talks that they were going to redo The Thing. I know, I'm not happy about that either. But the comic books, like, there's a whole YouTube bunch of videos where you can actually follow the entire story of what happened with the comic books and like how it took so long for some of them to come out and how they vary and different and which ones are obviously the first two of the three I think are considered to be way better, and the third just it deviates a lot. But it does follow up with Mcready and it continues like that story.
Okay. Well, I think the game too. I think Mcready shows up in the game.
Yeah, they definitely they touch on that too. Yeah.
But I think it was going to be a prequel, and I think the sci-fi series ended up being the movie.
Yeah, I just wasn't. I really. God, that prequel was tough, man. I wanted to like it. It looked so like the style of filmmaking was fine. I mean, it looked like what it was trying to do with the you could tell that they put another filter over it to try and give it more of a modern look, which was not a smart choice because it just doesn't make sense then. But if they had just been able to do the effects the way that they originally wanted, it would have been, because I've seen the behind the scenes effects of what they did, and they look good, man. Some of that stuff, I'm like, okay, you put enough, you paint it up and light it properly. Yes, very much so.
I was thinking this. If they have to make, I don't want them, I just leave this alone. But if they have to make another Thing movie, a remake or a reboot, I don't know, put it in a different environment. Go Predator 2 with it. Put the Thing in the city. Or something different,
Oh, I mean, you could just put it in like a jungle research facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's this jungle research facility we have, guys. Oh, man. What are we going to do? This thing's coming after us.
Ooh, the moon. It's just a fucking moon base. And they find the Thing in some crater. I don't know.
Actually, have you seen Apollo 18 or whatever?
No, is it?
Okay, so here's the movie's terrible, but the get, once you realize what it is, the idea of it being like you're on the moon, it's all pitch black, but the idea is that the rocks there aren't rocks.
Ooh.
They can sprout legs and they're actual like creatures, and these things exist on the moon. So like it's been inhabited by something that is taking the shape of things and getting in. So I like the concept of that, but it takes an hour and 20 minutes out of an hour and 23-minute movie or something to like do that, Right. Yeah, so it's if you ever look it up, look for that type of stuff, and I think it's a great concept like going that route. But yeah, it would be interesting to see something of like, all right, if you're going to do another movie like The Thing, yeah, if someone's out on like a moon base and they find something there and you go real deep in the future sci-fi, and then, or like the video game Carrion, which is essentially The Thing, but you're playing as the creature as it's escaped from this facility and gets larger and has to assimilate people and then divide.
Now, what is this video game called?
Carrion. It's like a pixelated, it's kind of like an 8-bit side-scroller Metroidvania. It came out like last year, but you are the bad guy and you're trying to like go around and get larger and kill all the scientists and all these people trying to take you out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think, we can all agree no to a reboot. But if they do it,
I'd like them to see a decent prequel that follows what the story was laid out by John Carpenter. Just redo the Thing, the prequel, do that in a miniseries, just about have him speaking Norwegian, go full out, just figuring out the ship, and they blew up the ship with thermite in the original, but this one they turned on with jet engines or something. So
Netflix series.
Do HBO Max that shit.
Yeah, HBO Max it actually as a series. Do it as between 8 episodes and 10 episodes, but you do the prequel of The Thing and The Thing. So basically you can stretch it out to give more character development of the original facility, and you're watching basically a 4-hour movie of what happened at the Norwegian camp, and then like a 4 or 5 hour thing of what's happening at the Outpost 31.
Okay.
And that way you could focus on like how it slowly assimilated them and took over, and how like you can focus on the psyche of people going crazy and stuff.
I think at the end of the day, the whole thing with the prequel, I mean, I guess it could have potential. I mean, I'm acting like they didn't do it. They already did do it, I guess poorly, but we just didn't need to see it. I mean, like, I haven't seen the movie, but I'd imagine this same. It's kind of the same as the first movie. I would imagine.
All these people are good looking in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They're good looking in this one.
It's like the lead dwarf in the Hobbit was like GQ model, and the rest of them were like. Well, speaking of games, for a Kickstarter a couple of years ago, I bought the board game for The Thing. So if y'all ever want to play it now that we're out of pandemic,
Holy
Oh, that's
shit!
awesome.
I would love to play this. Oh my god, that looks awesome. Our listeners can't see this, but so what? I mean, is it just like what do you? How do you play it? Like, give me the list.
It's almost like you're figuring out who's the thing, and you're trying to do different objectives.
Actually, I kind of love this. If you think about it, that could be the thing. Could lend itself to a game like that, like a Guess Who, like maybe a Clue kind of type game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my god!
Dude, isn't that all Among Us is? Like, isn't Among Us essentially the thing?
Is that what is Among Us? Is that
Among Us is that game that like everyone was playing where you have to figure out who are the traitors on the ship or whatever, who are like not the humans, and then basically if you don't figure out who it is, then somebody could be launched off the ship. It's like a party game.
Okay.
And it got really popular over the pandemic.
You have the character cards, and you get your blood sample types.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay, I'm coming over, Alfred. I'm gonna play this with you.
All right.
I have a. Oh yeah, hold on.
Everybody's bringing out their merch now. I love this.
Then you got your characters.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
So yeah, I've been looking for people to play this with, and
I'm so fucking down. Yeah, I would. Yeah, hell yeah, I would love to play it.
And then on a different night.
That 2 game. Ooh.
Yeah, and I have the extras pack for it. This was the failed Kickstarter because they kept adding too many goals and too many bonus things. And then another company, Jasco Games, picked it up a couple of years later and were like, hey, you ordered this thing, right? We're actually going to fulfill it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Sure. Whoa.
All right. Well, apparently I need to get some board games based on movie. In conclusion, so give me your final thoughts, guys. Let's rate this out of 5. Alfred, care to start?
Yeah, 5.
5 out of 5. Okay.
You can maybe 4.8 out of 5 for a few minor things. I'm going to go 5. I'm going to go big. I really enjoyed the whole thing from start to finish, except for a few scenes. But I loved it. It's engrossing. It's believable. It's kept me on my toes. I like to see it again for the first time, because it was just something different.
Yeah, it is one of those movies that, I'm kind of with you. Like, there are certain movies I'm like, man, it would be great to have been there when it premiered in theaters. Mm-hmm. See it for this long. Yeah, I'm with you. Rob?
Easily 5 out of 5. This is, when it comes to straight up horror, this is my favorite horror film of all time. And then if you were going comedy horror, like either Evil Dead 2 or Dead Alive. Okay. But this is the best when it comes to horror. Easily a 5 out of 5, man.
And I think it's universally, it translates well into different. It's like anybody can watch it. It's like, and it's timeless. And there's nothing really outside of the computers. There's nothing really holding it to 1982.
That's a good point too. I mean, yeah, okay, you remake this, the computers look a little bit modern. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of timeless. I didn't really think of that.
Yeah.
For me, this is the easiest rating I've ever given. 5 out of 5. I just love it. I love the environment. I love snow. I don't know. I love this sense of dread and paranoia. I think they convey that so well on screen. I think the performances are great. And I think this is like the apex of practical effects. Like,
absolutely.
It was just creativity. It's so impressive. And they just don't make movies like this anymore, unfortunately. It's really sad. It's great. I can't say any more. I love it.
Yeah.
It's one of John Carpenter's best, if not his best, and it's a classic. It's a horror classic. So 5 out of 5 for me. All right. Anything else? Guys, this was a blast. I really want to play y'all's board games. Thanks for doing this, guys. If you guys haven't already, check out the eChat podcast. Rob, if you ever bring a podcast back, I would love to talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some horror movies. Also, Alfred's performance enhancing films. I did Point Break on your podcast, Alfred, a long time ago. But yeah, his podcast is amazing. And I think that'll do it. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
It was great.